everybody, and welcome. I'm Rusty Nelson, and I'm here at my gallery in Kennett Square, PA. So if you're ever in the area, please stop by if you have a chance. Today, I have something that's really caught my eye as far as the printing world goes, and I'll explain to you in a few seconds about how I got involved in it. But if you're somebody that has ever had problems with your heads clogging, this may have the answer for you. Or have you ever done the double profile thing? Like I have a couple of times. This completely eliminated that. Resizing. Resizing, you don't even need to think about it. You just take your original image, put it in the program. It'll take care of it for you. The algorithms are absolutely amazing. Trust me, I've tested them a bunch of times. Layouts. This is what really got me going. Was on my Canon Pro 4000, I use a 44-inch wide roll. And trying to lay out images on there efficiently was absolutely a pain in the butt with Canon's program. But I got this program, and my life has changed totally as far as that's concerned. But this is a longer program. I started doing this thinking it was going to be about 10 minutes long, and it ended up being about a half an hour. So what I did was I made a shorter version, and I'll go ahead and put a link up there somewhere, wherever it goes, where you can see the shorter version. It just covers a couple of things, and it also tells you about something really special. The owners of Qimage have created a page, and if you've watched this video, you will get the link to the page, and you will get an additional discount if you decide to buy the program. Now, you also get a 2-week trial. So if you decide after the 2 weeks you don't like it, it's free. And if you go ahead and sign up for it, go ahead and do it through the link, and it doesn't matter whether there is a sale or not, it will automatically be applied. I'm really excited about this. Hang in there. We'll get started just after, quote of the day. Hello and welcome. First off, before we even get started, let me say thank you so much to those of you that have subscribed. I really appreciate it. It helps the channel get out there and helps other people. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please follow the little guy down there somewhere and follow him to the subscribe button. Over there should be down in the corner. And when you do that, also hit the bell for the notification. That way, when there's new videos put out, you will get notified when they're actually put out. With that in mind, I'm going to start doing some more videos on printing, Lightroom. I'm a certified expert, Adobe expert in Lightroom. And also, I'll be getting, and I'm really excited about it, I'll be getting a drone here, hopefully in the next month if we ever get through this whatever's going on in the world right now that's holding everything up. And also, as most of you know, my expression is my camera is my best excuse for an adventure. And I am a storm chasing guide during the summer, so I'm going to try this year to do some videos combined with photography and storm chasing, so you'll get notified about those too. But anyway, let's get on with this program. Right behind me, you will see what I Googled the first time that I Googled Qimage. But let me tell you really quick about how I found out about this program the first time, because it has some significance on why you may want to use it. When I got my Canon ProGraph 4000, I was having a heck of a time laying out images on a 44-inch wide roll. Now, you don't want to go print one 4x6 on a 44-inch roll. You want to fit as many prints in as you can to be kind of efficient. And I was going crazy trying to work with Canon's program. So when I was at one of the conventions, I asked a friend of mine who actually does a lot of printing for one of the large manufacturers how in the world he does his layouts and all the rest of this stuff. And he just kind of leaned over to me and said, I don't use that program. What I use is Qimage. And actually, he said, a lot of other people use it. And it was kind of at that point I went, well, you know what? If these guys are using this, this is probably what I need to be using. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. The first kind of problem I had was I ran home and Googled Qimage. And let's take a look. Get me off of here. And right behind me, you'll see, or actually on the screen now, you'll see what I saw the first time. And I went, wait a minute, there's Qimage Ultimate and there's Qimage One. They have different pricing. They look like they're different companies. And I was right on all those accounts. But here's the story in a nutshell really quick. A guy started 20 some years ago, Mike, Qimage Ultimate. And it evolved into this great program, kind of like along the lines Photoshop did for Adobe. And along the way, he found out that he really needed a Mac and a Windows-based program because Qimage Ultimate on this side is only Windows-based. So it just so happens that his next door neighbor, Andrew, was also a programmer, and they kind of joined together and made I'll call it, quote, a Qimage Lite, if you will, that deals directly with printing and also is Mac and Windows based. So the difference between these two is you got Qimage One that is Mac and Windows based, and you have Qimage Ultimate, which is Windows based, but has a lot more features in it. It's not necessarily more powerful, it just has a lot more features and also has its own editing software that is attached to it. So that's the big difference. There's also a slight difference in pricing, although they're really close in the scheme of things. And if you go to either one of these sites, you'll be able to see what the pricing is. But here's the great thing on top of that, something to keep in mind. These guys decided, since I knew I was going to be doing a few videos on this, they created a couple of web pages for the time being. I don't know how long it's going to last, that will give you a discount knowing that you watched one of these videos. And I'll put that in the links below. If it's not there, that means they're not doing it anymore. But this is in addition to even any sales that they have. So please use those links if you want to save a little money, even if it is on sale. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the programs. So you know now basically what the difference is, and what I'd like to do is I'll bring up the programs and we'll take a look at them, and we'll go through Qimage One first. And I think you'll notice that Qimage One and Qimage Ultimate, the layouts or the user interface UIs are almost exactly the same. I have got Qimage One stacked up on top of Qimage Ultimate. And just looking up in the menu bar up top here, you can tell Qimage Ultimate has a few more selections. Like I said, it's also an editing program, but it has a few more features in it than Qimage One, which is basically deals with printing. So look at the menu bar down here. Dragging this down a little further, you can see that the two are pretty much set up. The UIs are pretty much exactly the same. This right panel deals with the printer settings, the driver settings, and they almost look exactly the same, except that Qimage Ultimate has a few extra selections. What I'd like to do is use Qimage One right away out of the chute, and we'll just look at that to describe what the program actually looks like. And then I will jump over to Qimage Ultimate and show you some of the really cool features, such as we'll do the auto roll feature, which is kind of new. You got that on both of them, but I'll just use Qimage Ultimate to show those. So there's three panels. Three panels consist of your images or your jobs over here. Now, when you send an image over to the program from Lightroom or Photoshop, it will create a separate file and store those files accessed by the Qimage programs. If you're using a standalone program, which either one can be used as a standalone program, it actually creates a link to the file and creates a job. So you'll see previews generated here on the left-hand side. Personally, I send everything over from Photoshop or Lightroom. And these 3 images we're going to use a little bit later are actually iPhone images that I sent over. So kind of low res type images. The center part of this is the live view section. So in other words, when you bring an image over here and drop it in there, this is where you see exactly what the image is. And it's pretty much WYSIWYG. So in other words, what you see is what you get. We'll click out of that for a second. So all the information here on the right-hand side of the panel under the printer settings is derived from your printer driver. So there's no more jumping back to your driver without going through Qimage. You'll just access it right through Qimage. The second tab up here is simply how your image is going to be transferred and brought into Qimage, into the layout, including such things as auto cropping and borders that are placed on there. We'll get into that real quick a little bit later, but let's take a quick look at this printers and setting tabs. The first line is simply the profile, your monitor profile that Qimage is going to use to access how it previews your image. So if you have 2 monitors, make sure you select the one that you're going to be using to view your images. This section right here deals with the printer driver itself. Now, the great part about this is it is a sticky setting. So once you set your driver, now I have basically 4 that I use, the 4000 and the 1000. For this demonstration, we'll go ahead and just use the 1000. The next line is your media type. All this information is derived directly from your driver. The size of the paper, the media, is pulled off of your driver also. And you can also create your own custom size papers, which can be stored in there. Let's just keep, for this demonstration, 8.5 by 11. Source, it'll change because if you pick plain paper, the only source is the top feed. You can't use a manual feed. For matte papers, art papers, the only thing you can use is a manual feed, and that's all it will let you choose. So you really can't make a mistake there. Landscape is just the orientation of the paper itself, the way you're looking at it. Here's the fun part. You're never going to double profile again because Qimage is actually going to check, and then if it has to, it's going to change your driver. So the first time you set this up, and I have erased all my settings in my driver. Go to Pro Luster, select the profile that we're going to use. Let's say you didn't have a profile right there loaded. Here's something that's really great. You can say, suggest a printer profile to me. And it jumps into your printer profiles and it kind of goes back in and says, you know what, I'm going to look for what I think is the best profile. And sure enough, there it is. Photo Paper Pro Luster. Select open. Here you can select whether you want perceptual or relative. Perceptual is the default. Click OK.
And now the paper profile is loaded.
This yellow warning sign is saying, you know what? You haven't gone back and actually checked the driver. I want you to go back and check the driver and make sure that you have things set correctly for this setup that you're creating right now. Here is the driver that's brought up once you click on that and look through it really quick. We don't want borderless printing. We're on Pro Luster. See, it matches right there with Pro Luster. Quality, I always select the highest. Top feed is where, let's just select that for this. Now come over and read the printer driver helper. Print quality and color management settings must be made manually on your printer. Blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. If you're not quite sure, Qimage provides a small little text that will actually help you out and help you select what is correct. Most of the time, it has already selected it for you. So let's read along here. In the main tab, jump over to the main tab. Under color intensity, click manual. All right, color intensity, manual, and then click on set. Go to, like it says, go to matching. and make sure that you have none selected from the list, which we already do. Now, as we click out of this, once we go OK, Qimage stores that information about your driver. And it says, all right, you've gone and checked your driver and everything looks okay. For this combination of Photo Paper Pro Luster on the 1000 driver with this ICC profile, it's logged that in. So anytime we jump back to Pro Luster, it's remembered exactly what our settings are. Let's jump over to something slightly different, say Premium Matte, select that. Now all of a sudden it says printer driver color matching settings have been auto applied. Let printer driver manage color. Well, that's probably not what we want. We probably want to pick our own ICC profile. Let's say we want to look for that Premium Matte. Now normally you'd have to go back, you got to go find your profile, whatever you think is best. Just open it up, suggest printer profiles. A screen pops up, and at the top of the list, Qimage's best guess at what that profile should be. And most of the time, if it's not like a custom profile that you've made, usually that name will be selected fairly easily by Qimage. So there it is. And go ahead and select that. And printer driver color matching settings have been auto applied. So there's no way that I'm going to end up double profiling this, but there is a yellow marker here which says you need to go in and manually check this because you have not checked it yet. Jumping down the first side of the page, it's already changed over to our Pro Premium Matte page. Correct size paper. But when we look over here on the left, it says let's run through the main tab, and as it says, go down to the manual and set. And check and make sure, and yes, sure enough, it is selected. None. Click out of this. Now, this is set up for the next time you select Photo Paper Pro Premium Matte, along with the Canon Pro ICC profile. Let's jump back to what we had before set with the Pro Luster. Now, if you remember, using a regular driver, you would go in and select Pro Luster and you'd have to reset everything. Not with Qimage. Let's just go back and select the Pro Luster. And right away with this green check mark, we know that everything that we've set in there is already in there. The ICC profile is selected, which feed we want, the size paper comes up. Jumping over to the driver really quick, highest is selected. Everything is exactly the way we left it from last time, and you are in no way going to double profile. Only thing you got left to do is select whether you want to stay at suggested 600 ppi or whether you want to go into overdrive. 600 ppi will be good enough. So let's talk about sharpening real quick right here. First of all, Qimage has got an amazing sharpening algorithm that it uses. You can go onto their website and check it out, or I'm going to do a future one on just the sharpening because it's great. But they have their own algorithm that they use, which is absolutely amazing. So their output sharpening, what you want to do with it is look at your image, proof your image on the screen, and then print it out. And if it is not sharpened to what you see on the screen, then you adjust it from there. And that's kind of the basic concept of how it works. The only thing that's left to do now is go find a print. So let's go ahead and do that. Before we actually get started throwing images up onto the live view part here on the center of the paper, I need to explain a couple of things. Paper to Qimage means the actual physical size of the piece of media that you're going to print on. Page is the size of the printable area that sits on the piece of paper. Looking right up at the top here, 10.685 by 8 is the printable size of the paper, i.e. the page. On the other hand, if we went over and took the driver, hit on properties, and simply put in borderless, immediately you see that there is no longer a border around the page. That's because we're printing borderless. Also, that 600 has been bumped up to 610 because the driver's saying, hey, to make this borderless, I'm going to have to bump it up to 610 to make this work right. So that's things that are taken care of automatically by Qimage. Placing images on the page is really simple with Qimage. Let's select the image we want to work with, this far left one here, the sunrise. Now, immediately, as soon as you select that, because that's the image we're working with, look on the right-hand side and under the Prints tab, a few of these sizes all of a sudden turn blue. And what that means is that image is perfect for a 2x3, a 4x6, or an 8x12. Along with that, you'll notice that there's an asterisk. When you see that, basically what it's telling you that this image is too large to perfectly fit on this page at these dimensions. Let's go ahead and select a 4x6. The image automatically pops up onto the page. But the next thing to consider is this little box down here. It has three choices. One's IntelliCenter, one's IntelliSpace, and IntelliCut. If we select IntelliCenter, it places the image directly in the center of the page. If you select IntelliSpace, it will actually, if we add another image in here, it will actually space out the images efficiently onto the page. And IntelliCut will actually butt the images up right next to each other so that you get the most efficient way to cut them. Let's work with IntelliCenter right now, and we'll take off this one image and look at View. And under View, we can turn the rulers that are on the left and top on and off. We can turn the grid on and off, and we can turn Snap on and off. And what Snap does is, let's set it at 1/4 of an inch. It will allow you to select this image and drag it by the left side by 1/4 of an inch in each direction and snap it onto the grid. If you pull it down by the bottom right-hand corner, it'll snap it to the bottom right. Now, also notice that if you hover over the center of the image, it also tells you that this is a 4x6 at 332 ppi, and it also gives you guidance on the resolution itself. So if we took this and took the corner and grabbed it and made it much larger, now hover over top, it still says at 221 ppi, it's very good. The thing is that no matter what you do, it's going to up-res this to 600 by 600.
Or whatever's best for that particular driver.
Now, suppose you have somebody that walks in and says, I want this picture of these balloons on the whole page, on this 8.5 by 11. Now, you can tell right away that this is not going to fit on an 8.5 by 11. If we turn on the auto crop, select this image and say Fit to Page, it will automatically be placed onto the page. Since the auto crop is on, it has automatically cropped it to fit into there.
It may not be cropped just the way you like it.
And if that's so, just right-click on it. Now you can move this around, say to include more of the balloons down the bottom. Let's say for some bizarre reason, you just want half of this balloon. I don't have any idea why you would want to do that. Just go up to the top corner, grab it, and pull it down to half of that balloon. Click Done. And it comes back to the page. Put the cursor over it, and you can tell we're at 139 ppi, and it's good at best. But if you want to proof it and see exactly what it looks like, just click the proof, and you'll get a higher res image of that. And you can proof it with black point compensation on or off. You can proof the paper. Remember, we selected an ICC profile. And you can also proof it and find out which colors are out of gamut for that paper by simply selecting it. And we notice that some of these reds and blues and part of that bear's face is out of gamut. And you can also proof it in either perceptual or relative. This is great because I know a lot of people want to see right away, am I better off selecting relative or perceptual? Well, there you go. Now let's say we actually want to put multiple images, and we know darn well that it's not going to fit on one page. How do we put them on there so that they're spaced out evenly. Qimage will go ahead and do that for you. Let's say you need to have them a half an inch, or let's just go back to a quarter inch. Go back to 0.25, and we want to enforce that all around each one of the images. Back over to our prints, and let's pick 4x6s. We'll put a 4x6 of each of these, and right away we can see that it's gone over into the second page. And let's go ahead and do a 2x3, and let's do a 2x3 of this, a 5x7 of that. We can just flip through each one of these pages. And if we want, we can go ahead and say Qimage, put the larger images first. And by doing that, we've actually saved a whole page of paper. Here's the great part about this. This image shows up 3 times, and it's different sizes, and it's cropped different ways. You notice her hand is down the bottom. And suppose we want to crop this slightly different because that's our wedding hand and she just got married. Just go back to that crop again. Go ahead and select it, show her hand, click done, and it doesn't affect
any of the other identical images.
So each one of these images you can deal with individually.
Qimage is not limited to just placing one image on a page or multiple separated images on a page. You can also create what I guess you would call a collage. Let's take a look.
Like I said before, the basic concept of Qimage is you select an item, a file, an image, and then you select what you're going to do with it. Let's select this image of all the balloons over here and place it as almost like a background. So fit to paper would be a good selection for that. Uncheck that, and the next image we want to use is this image of the balloons over here. And we want to place an 8x10 on this page. Normally we just go select 8x10, and if we do that, it's going to take it and place it on the next page. But that's not really what we want to do. So what you can do is select freehand, and it says, are you sure you want to turn freehand placement on? And yes. And just drag this image on top of there. Now remember, you have 8x10 selected over there. So it's going to drop an 8x10 image in there. And you're going to sit there and go, where did it just go? It's sitting behind there because you placed it afterwards. Now you can right click or just use the arrows, but we can send this top image to the back, and there is the image that we just dropped in. Now because we're in freehand, we can go ahead and just move the image around the page and deselect that and select this lovely pink purple balloon, and we'll place that. Remember, we're still in freehand, an 8x12. Oh, now why did that happen? Well, that was because we selected it over there. To do this, you actually have to take it and drag it onto the image. Just select the image. Remember, select the image that you want to do something to. Rotate it. And there it is. We place it over that sun because that's kind of blinding me. Now, all of a sudden, let's say your grandma says, you know what? I really like that pink purple color. I want you to put a frame around this image over here. Go ahead and select that image. Come down here to the borders. And let's select, I don't know why he would do this, 2 inches. Now all of a sudden there's a 2-inch border around there, but what happened? The frame shrunk. Well, you want the border to be the outside. So select B+, which places it outside. And now you move it into the perfect spot, and grandma goes, yeah, but I want it to be the color of this balloon, that frame that's around there. And that's no problem for Qimage. Just select the 1 down here for that color border. Pick the eyedropper, select the color, and if you notice the 1 down in the right-hand corner is changing to the color that you're selecting with the eyedropper. Select it, and there is a nice, beautiful color. Whew. Anyway, that's pretty much it, and that's how you can make a collage on there. Real quickly, if you look down here on the bottom right-hand side, if you remember when we added borders, there was a small little switch right here on 1. There are settings in here to help out with canvas printing. I'm not really familiar personally with canvas printing. And I do know that Qimage Ultimate does have a few other features regarding printing on canvas. And we're going to jump over to Qimage Ultimate right after this. But quickly, I want you to look at, if we place the cursor over the image up here, the balloons, the PPI on there is 45. Now, this is a 44-inch size print that this would produce at 44 PPI, and Qimage is telling you that it is poor. Now, suppose you wanted to create an image that was, say, 150 PPI, or you wanted to do an image that was a certain size on one size. This is another area where Qimage Ultimate shines. So let's go ahead and jump over there. We'll grab a different image because I'm getting tired of the balloons right now, and we'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Right away when we jump into Qimage Ultimate, there are extra dials and buttons, all sorts of things on here that may deal with editing, because don't forget, Qimage Ultimate also has a pretty powerful editing program along with it. A few seconds ago, we were just working with the border, and one thing I didn't bring up that we didn't cover too much was the fact that Qimage One and Qimage Ultimate can both do canvas printing. And I am not a canvas printer, but there are areas in here to deal with canvas printing. You can deal with canvas edge and telemirror and dealing with stretch. Also on Qimage Ultimate, it's easy to see that there's a few more dials and buttons over here in the processing area. And one of those is for shrinkage compensation with canvas. But also there's a bunch of different areas in here, such as just take interpolation. If we click on this, there's a lot of other ways that you can do interpolation with Qimage Ultimate. And you can just select it right here. But unless you're doing something really crazy, just leave it at Fusion. It even gives you an idea of the quality and speed at which that interpolation method works. Something else to point out is in Qimage Ultimate, you'll find little buttons here, the V's down here and up to here on the top right. And this will take you over to the main website and give you additional help regarding videos and the like, dealing with that specific section. So really kind of a great thing to have, especially when you're just learning. I wanted to give you a quick example of how Qimage Ultimate may be able to help you out in some printing areas. And one of that was when we were talking about resolution PPI that the image is going to come in at. The example that I said was when we were dealing with the 45 PPI, but let's say you wanted to bring an image in and make it exactly 150 or 180 PPI. Because you know that a image at that size at a lower resolution will have too much degradation. Going back to prints, there is this other line custom here. If you select it in Qimage Ultimate, it brings up a whole nother dialog box that allows you to select the way you'll actually customize and bring the image into the live view area. One of those areas is to use original embedded size. Now, usually I have mine selected to 300 because I deal with a lot with Lightroom and Photoshop, and when I go back and forth, I'm usually at 300. There is a little selection here that you can pick and say override what's embedded into the image. Now, if you remember, the images come over from Lightroom at 240, but if we put in 180 and select OK, this image, if we hover over it, you can see came in right at 180, and it says that it's very good. The image size is 45 by 21, so we know that that's pretty much the largest we can go, unless maybe we bump it down to 150. If you wanted to print an image across the roll, you could use the same idea by going back and go to Prints, Custom, and select Specify One Dimension. When you click this, select 42 inches, which will be just a couple inches shy of the 44-inch roll, and we would want this on the long side. Select that, and now the image is placed on there that is 42 inches wide by 20 inches, and it's 193 PPI. One problem we run into is that now we have this big long roll and we really don't want to waste all that space on the roll. So what do? Do you go in and resize the piece of paper? No, there's a really great setting that's both on Qimage One and Qimage Ultimate for people that use roll paper. The only thing you have to do, select on the right hand side, auto roll length, and automatically Qimage One and Qimage Ultimate, we're in Qimage Ultimate now, will reduce the size of the roll and where it's going to be cut off to the size you need. If you need to put on a new image, let's say you wanted to add a new image, this is where auto roll really shines. Let's say your client wants 2 more images, but they're smaller images. Just click on the image size and add it in, and there it is. Click on the image size again and add it in. Click it on the image size and add it in, and Qimage has placed 3 images along the bottom and expanded the roll automatically. Now, this doesn't have to stop with the same image. You can put all different types of images on a long roll on here and just keep adding them in, and Qimage will actually expand the roll. Now, if you've gotten this far, congratulations, because we're probably about half an hour into this, and I didn't mean to go that long. But there's just so much stuff in Qimage and Qimage One that I could go on for hours. In fact, this last segment that I'm going to do, which is about the unclog feature, I will just cover briefly. So make sure you're subscribed, because probably one of the first videos I do, specific videos I do, will be on this feature. So once again, please make sure you're subscribed. Now, with that said, most of the time, problems with clogging stem from the fact that a printer's left too long. So what Qimage did is provide a way for your printer and your computer to go ahead and schedule a printing while you're not even there. Now, I know most of you, at least Canon printer types, have seen these type of things, and this is actually a nozzle check pattern for the Pro 4000. And what it does is goes out and does a pattern and wants you to check it and make sure that it's okay. And it can figure out whether any of your nozzles are clogged. Well, one of the problems with especially the Canon printer, I don't know about Epson, is that it has a unique feature where the ink can, when it's clogged, will actually take the head and utilize another head to supplement if it has a clog. Well, Qimage has solved a lot of these problems with its unclog feature, and that's what we're going to take a look at right now. Go up to File and down to Print Schedule, Unclog, and there will be a dialog box that comes up like this. Now, just in typical Qimage fashion, there's a ton of instruction, and I think you're going to see really quick how Qimage has got your back as we go through this, because I have a feeling it's going to find a couple of mistakes in here. First thing you would do is create a job. Now, you create a job so that later on, like I said many times over and over, that Qimage will actually save your jobs and you can just jump right back to them. And that goes for printing too, along with your unclog. Just create your first job, click the plus button, and let's do one for the Canon Pro 1000 through this driver. Go to Properties, and what you want to do in Properties is select a paper type. Now, Epson, I know there's some Epson printers that you'd want to either select, keep this in mind, select matte or a photo paper, but for this is a Canon, and we'll select glossy. That way we'll make sure that we exercise the photo black ink. If you want to exercise the matte black ink, say like on an Epson, you'd have to switch to one or the other to go ahead and do that. In the instructions, it says to select the highest and then click OK. It allows you to put, we'll just put test in here. Oh, that's not the way you spell test. Test, and click OK. And this is the name of our job. Now, anytime we want to do this, we don't have to reset this because it will remember. Here's a unique thing. You can do one of these and select whatever color you want. So in other words, if you have a problem with just the blue ink, then you can select just blue, because why do a cleaning if you don't need to do it in all the colors? But for a Canon printer, they do not have orange and they do not have green ink. So you would unselect that. You can go a half page or full page, go back into the printer properties if you feel you need to change anything. And speaking of printer properties, this is what you want to have selected over here, and that is interpolation vector, which allows you to concentrate more on individual colors and sharpen off. You can use plain paper, might as well keep it on the cheap side because we really don't care what the image looks like, and go ahead and hit print. Qimage really seems to have your back in a lot of areas, and this is just one of them. I want to read this to you. Current printer driver resolution is 611. Now I know from using Qimage that means somewhere in there in the driver I have selected borderless. And it tells you some scaling expansion is normal when printing borderless. But if you're not printing borderless, please use Properties button to check the driver and uncheck any reduce enlarge options in the driver. So we'll click no and go back into the driver and see whether borderless. So borderless printing was selected. Uncheck that and select print unclog. And we've already got everything set in here. Just select print. And here we go. Just like that, out comes a nice saturated print that has helped to unclog or prevent unclogs, whatever the reason is you're printing it for. Now, if you had problems with a single color, remember, we can turn off all the other inks and you can go ahead and run an unclog for a specific color, blue here, and that'll save you some ink. So that's a pretty amazing feature. That's about all I'm going to go through right now. And if you could, please do me a favor. Remember, if there's a link below for this, you will get a discount beyond what Qimage is already offering. Qimage One or Ultimate is offering their program through. If you go through that link, even after you subscribe for the free trial, if you go back and purchase it through that link, you'll get that discount. If the link is not there down below, that means they've stopped doing it. I don't know when that's going to happen or if it's going to stop happening, but do me a favor. You know my saying, my camera is my best excuse for adventure. Printing is always an adventure. I love it. I hope with this program it makes it a little easier for you and you start printing a little more. Make sure you subscribe and like and share this with somebody if you think they'll benefit from it, a camera club or something like that, and subscribed. And anyway, I will see you out there with your camera. Please stop by Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, and stop by the gallery if you're around, and I'd love to sit down and talk with you. Anyway, have a great day.